Social media in a crisis. Now, many people just talk about the positive PR, marketing, and communications benefits from social media, but it can be a very useful tool in a crisis as well in a number of ways. And we'll look here at a couple of incidences and a couple of events that happened that show how social media can be best placed and best used. Eurotunnel had an incident a couple of years ago where trains were trapped in the tunnel and there was no information to people on board, nothing to the press or the wider public beyond that of train broken down. That's pretty much it. We're working on it to resolve it. Sorry folks, tell you more later. And that wasn't good enough. That may have been acceptable 20 years ago, and even then it probably wasn't. But now, customers and consumers have a voice. We live in a cycle of constant news. So there were people out there filling the airwaves and filling online with rants against Eurostar, saying this is ridiculous. I've got a gran on board, I've got a pregnant wife on board, I've got children on board, I've got a baby on board. There was a lot of negativity around it, all of which is but bad publicity, obviously. And Eurotunnel didn't really respond. They stuck their head in the sand and left it at that until the problem was resolved. Now, fortunately, no one was hurt, but there was lasting damage done, at least in the short term anyway. And not just to Eurotunnel, companies who work with them or worked with them in terms of PR and so on were also being blasted online saying, listen, you're meant to do this for them, why aren't you helping them today? And the companies were saying, well listen, we're not working with them now, or we don't work with them on everything, we only work on certain projects. So it was very much a sort of halo effect, a spin out of just the negativity towards Eurotunnel. Now, they could have done some very, very simple things. Nothing that's mentioned here is either radical or cutting edge. Pretty much have an update function on the front page of their website, just putting information up there as soon as they had it, anything at all. Duplicate that if you want onto your press page so that people going to these pages can see, oh, there's the latest information, I feel a bit more informed, that's handy, thank you very much. Similarly, any mentions that appeared in a blog or on Twitter or on Facebook, there should have been someone, getting back in touch going, here's the latest, here's a link to the latest news, here's what we know, please, don't panic, spread this about, we're working as hard as we can to fix it. And similarly, hourly updates, a reassuring voice from a head technician or the chief exec, a quick statement from someone, even over a camera phone, or a quick blog update. And again, this would have been picked up by other bloggers, it would have been picked up by the print press, TV press, radio, and they would have spread this content out there. And afterwards, the technical details should have been released, because so many people forget that if you don't tell completely what happened, if you aren't completely transparent, people will wonder what happened. And in this day and age, the odds are that online there's someone smarter than you. Even if you're the top boffin in Boffin Incorporated, there's probably still someone smarter out there than you. And that's just something you have to bear in mind for the future and for when you're doing dealings with anyone. Because if you say, here's what happened, people might look at that and get back in touch and go, hey, do you know you could do this to improve your systems in the future? Or they'll at least go out there and go, yep, we can see what the problem is that they've been talking about, or the problem that they had. What they're showing us here shows that it's been rectified. It gives your repair some authenticity. It shows you're being open, you're being honest and engaging. And again, a very simple tactic. Once the trains were safe to travel on again, get all the bloggers in, get everyone who tweeted about it, get all the, if there's any bloggers who are regular travellers or business bloggers, get them on to show that it's safe. Give them some lunch on the train, over to France and back. Nice little day trip and some great PR as everyone writes about, the improved service, the improved facilities, and everyone moves on past the actual accident. Amazon had a bit of a howler one Friday afternoon when all of their gay, lesbian, bisexual and transsexual books vanished from the website. All gone. No comment, no explanation, no nothing. It's gone. And it was a Friday afternoon, as these things always seem to be, and there was outrage. The GLBT community online is very vocal at the best of times, and as there was no explanation for what was happening here, people assumed the worst. So, blogs were written, tweets, Facebook updates, people were making YouTube videos, and people were getting in touch with authors going, hey, we see you've got a link to your Amazon page, we can't believe you're supporting those homophobes, we're never buying your books again. So authors ended up pulling down links to Amazon, which could have been seen as costing them money. And Amazon just let this stew over the weekend and then never responded until the late Monday afternoon, which again tells you that it was being controlled from the US, because if it had been the UK or Europe, some sort of statement would have been put out, on the Monday morning. But it was late Monday PM, and it was discovered to be nothing more than a coding error. There had been tweaks made to the site, and that was it. It had this unintended consequence, and that was the official line, and that's what's always been stated since. Now, because it took so long, some people still aren't convinced about that, but Amazon could have been all over that within minutes. Even if they couldn't resolve the issue over the weekend, someone should have been going online and saying, hey, this isn't deliberate, we're sorry about this, we'll investigate it as soon as we can. And that would have bought some goodwill with most, if not all, of the online community. And Domino's Pizza learned a similar lesson this way. Someone said, here's the secret ingredients to Domino's, and put some, let's just say, bodily fluids into a pizza. And the video went all around the world, while Domino's corporate was still working out how to respond. Now, Domino's did eventually engage and, got there. But again, the fact that it took them a couple of days to do so, cost them in terms of response, in terms of positive PR. It could have been nailed down a whole lot quicker. And a good example of how to nail it down a whole lot quicker is Vodafone. What happened here was, a member of staff was walking past the desk of a colleague who worked on customer support and customer comms, and saw a Twitter page open. Now, he assumed it was his friend's personal Twitter page and not Vodafone's, and he put in quite an offensive tweet, and that went out to, say, 15,000-20,000 followers that Vodafone had. And as you would expect, the reaction was people say, oh, can't believe, this is Vodafone's opinion, it's a bit sexist, it's homophobic, what gives? And within minutes, they had a response in place. Vodafone saw what had happened and started replying to every single mention of their tweet and saying, look, not authorised, not sanctioned, we'll give you more information later when we can, we apologise for any offence. This was done to every single person who mentioned their tweet. And, they suspended the member of staff, and then they went through the process of what had happened, and they went back to the bloggers and the tweeters and said, here's what happened, we're dreadfully sorry about any issue you may have had with this. And the story was done in hours. Don't get me wrong, there were people doing Twitter updates for them well into the night and over the weekend. But, the story was pretty much, done and dusted by about 6 o'clock before any paper had went to print. And what could have been, a page 1 on a slow day, or perhaps a page 5 story, ended up being page 19. And it went from Vodafone in homophobic sexist outburst to rogue member of staff, gets Vodafone a bit of bother. Nothing more, nothing less. And it gained them a lot of goodwill for dealing with it so quickly, for being so honest about it, and for being so engaging about it, and for going back to everyone at an individual level. And, to this day, it's still a case study of how to do it. But the best ways to use social media in a crisis don't necessarily have to, you don't have to wait for the crisis to actually happen. If you're online and you're engaging, well before any problems happen, that means you're building up advocates, you're building up brand ambassadors, people who are on your side, people who are interested in your product, people who like your product and will stick up for it. And that cannot be underestimated. Similarly, if you're using social media, you can monitor in real time what people are saying about you, what's saying about your brand, what you're saying about your competitors, and extending that out a bit. If you want, you can pre-buy any URL you want, if it's available, of course, and you can set up some ads as well for emergencies, set up emergency sites, frequently asked questions. I mean, this is all stuff that you can do if you've got the time, budget and inclination as part of a crisis comms plan. And the beauty of, the ultimate beauty of social media for a crisis is that you're not relying on the Wall Street Journal, the Herald, the Scotsman, the Times, the Australian or any other paper to try and give you, a fair crack of the whip. They may use one part of your quote in a 20-part story, they may use none. But the point being, in an age when people use Google to find information, you can put as much information as you want up on your website. You can have text, you can have video, you can have photos, you can have audio, and then you can go out and give that to everyone who mentions you. You don't have to sit there passively for the traditional media anymore. You can have your side of a story out there before the other side's even seen print. So again, it's a great urgency sort of leveler, social media for a crisis. But some very simple tips to have. Be humble. Try and have a human face to the campaign. Whether it be a chief executive or someone from your company that's trusted in the public eye. That builds credibility, honesty, and to an extent you're using the integrity of that person as well to give some integrity to your campaign. Be engaging, be open, answer as much as possible. In fact, if possible, answer the next set of questions. Anticipate what your critics or naysayers are going to say next and answer them. Close them off at the pass as much as you could. Don't just be sitting there reacting. Be proactive, because then that lets you influence the agenda. It lets you say, right, we've answered everything about this issue of negativity. We've put these steps in place. We've addressed the issue. We're now moving forward. Job done. And that's all you say to people. And you just engage, especially the people who are putting the boot into you. You say to them all, here you go, here's what's being said, here's what you're saying, here's your answers, here's what we've learned. You control it. You just don't sit there and wait for someone to come and give you another kicking. And that's the best thing about this. As I say, you're no longer waiting on the press becoming your advocates. You can do it yourself and have others help you pick up that baton. But obviously there's a couple of things you can do well before that disaster ever strikes, and here's hoping it doesn't. Have written procedure and crisis plans in place. Have URLs bought if you want them. Have your contact info for experts and online influencers and bloggers and so on. And again, don't just assume, that having an email address or a Twitter address is enough. If someone's that important to contact them, try and make sure you've at least got a mobile for them. Have as many staff as possible trained in how to use, blogs, Twitter, video streams, or to take some video and upload video. Because if you're relying on one member of staff or one member of an agency and it all goes pear-shaped when they're unavailable, what are you going to do? So, give yourself some redundancy. And obviously have some good monitoring capabilities so that you can see what's being said, so you can be as up to date as everyone else with what's being spoken about.